It was horrid. This show was problematic. What, is Ryan Murphy gonna reply to me on MySpace and be like, yeah hun, you've got a role? That is not something that would come out of my mouth comfortably. Hi Ryan, my name's Amy Lovatt and I'm gonna be singing Run Joey Run. Hello everybody, how are you? I hope that you're very, very well. Today I am back with a GLEE project video. So earlier on in the year I rewatched the GLEE project season 1 and shared my feelings and thoughts and fond memories. And now I'm back with season 2. For those of you who don't know me, by the way, my name is Amy. I make a lot of theatre content here on YouTube. I talk a lot about GLEE. We're currently on our way to 80k subscribers, so if you do want to subscribe, please do that. I do want to issue a very quick trigger warning in this video. So I will be talking in this video slightly about Blake Jenner and Melissa Benoist, and so there will be the topic of domestic abuse. If that is something that you might find uncomfortable, then this might not be the video for you. I will leave a mini trigger warning before I talk about it again as well, so if you do want to proceed and then stop when that's brought up, then I will leave a timestamp in there as well. Anyway, let's talk about the GLEE project season 2. I'll be honest, like with the first one, I did mention I was convinced I was going to be on the GLEE project season 2. I remember being with my mum at Tesco where she was filling up the petrol in the car and I was like, Mum, I'm going to be on the GLEE project. And I think if you think about something enough, then it should happen for you. And I think about it all the time, and I'm going to be on season 2. Spoiler alert.
I wasn't.
I sent many an email asking if I could apply. I sent a MySpace message. I mean, what, is Ryan Murphy gonna reply to me on MySpace and be like, yeah hun, you've got a role? It was a simpler time. I used to think I was friends with Colin Firth on Facebook, okay? Sadly, I never auditioned. But a couple of weeks ago, I rewatched season 2 of the GLEE project and I have many thoughts because this, let me tell you, it was a roller coaster journey. A lot happened in this season and I have a lot to talk about. As I first started watching it, I was like, wait, why don't I remember any of these people? Of course, I remember Tony Award winner Ali Stroker. I remember that Danny went out with Ali after the show, so I remember Danny as well. And then I remember Nelly and obviously Blake Jenner. Ugh. Other than that, I was like, who are these people? Why have I never seen them before in my life? I have to say, as I rewatched it, the memories started coming back because I watched it back in the day when it was first on. I think, very interestingly, in the first episode, they described the GLEE project as less of a talent contest and more of an inspiration contest, which I think is very odd considering that then the winner of that season was a cis, white, straight male, when there were so many more people who had more inspiring stories to write about. Which is the thing I suppose that is the most interesting about the GLEE project, because it definitely is more about who you are as a person than the talent there and how marketable you are and how interesting you are to Ryan Murphy and if you inspire something in them. I think really is a bit of a strange idea for a show. I mean, and that did happen with some of the original cast as well. Obviously, Chris Colfer went in to audition for Artie and they were inspired by who he was as a person and wrote Kurt for him. So it's not like that hadn't been done before, but to make a TV show around it, I don't know if it worked necessarily. Listen, I was still there for it and I'm glad that they made it because great TV. Yeah, some of the people in this show, I was like, I recognize you, and some of them I was like,
I hate to say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous, I don't know who this man is.
Something I do love about the show is how lovely Robert Ulrich is. He was the kind of casting director on the show. You can tell he just has such a great relationship with everybody and I love that. And I like nice people and you can tell that he's like such a genuine, lovely person. So in the first week, it was down to Eileen, Tyler and Max in the 3. I really loved Tyler. I thought Tyler had such an interesting voice and like a voice that you don't really hear a lot. When a trans person is transitioning, their voice is going through changes and I think that would have been such an interesting thing to cover on the show and would have been such positive representation. And I did really like Eileen as well, but I will talk more about her as well. And then Max, who was like the country guy, they were like, I've been singing for a week. It's like, what? He'd been singing for like such a short amount of time and it's like, like, no offense to him, because I thought he was fine. Like, he wasn't a bad performer, but it's like, is that gonna be the person who you're gonna cast on Glee? It's like, you can straight up see that he's not gonna be comfortable doing the dance weeks and doing the acting week. Do you know what I mean? I felt really sorry when Taryn decided to leave the contest. She was the girl who was like, I'm really not feeling it, so I'm gonna go. And I think it's totally understandable. And I remember when I used to watch programs like this, and I would watch America's Next Top Model, and somebody would leave, somebody would drop out of the show themselves. It always used to annoy me, because I was like, you're taking something from somebody else who would have wanted to be there. Now I'm an adult and I'm so much more compassionate, so much more understanding. I'm like, they were given that opportunity, and you have to do what's right for you. You can't be like, well, I have to stay on the show where I'm not comfortable, I'm not having a good time because I was given the opportunity. You have to be okay with saying, not for me. So I think good on her. It's so weird rewatching it back though, because like, I watched it, but I remember so little of it. My hair is really annoying me. Oh my god, it made me laugh so much on Danceability week when they brought Sam Larson in, who won the Glee Project season 1, in as like the dance person that week. Like, Sam was like a fine he was like okay. He wasn't who you would class as like a great dancer. Like, he got by. I thought it was very odd that they picked him as the like celebrity or like cast mentor to come in on the dance week. Like, bring Britney in, for goodness sake. Okay, I need to just like stop for a moment and tell you about a funny story time. When I auditioned for my school that I ended up going to, this guy who is now my friend got up and sang his song, and he was just like, he had a lot of swagger about him, and he sat down and I was like, you had swagger for days. Right, and he still talks about it to me. Like, we still laugh about it all the time. We're like, oh my god, do you remember the first thing you ever said to me was that I had swagger for days? That is not something that would come out of my mouth comfortably. And he is not somebody who has swagger for days. I was rewatching the Glee Project season 2, and this happened.
She's sexy. She's got swagger for days.
And I was like, I stole it from the Glee Project. I didn't even come up with that myself. Embarrassing. Are you not embarrassed? I found some of the love triangle or whatever was going on between Eileen, Lily, and Charlie very weird. There seemed to be all this jealousy and like pent up teenage adrenaline and tension and emotions, and I feel like it just got in the way too much in this season. There was a moment where like Eileen had to kiss somebody else and Charlie was angry, so to shut him up she kissed him. And I was like, what is that about? And what is that showing young people who are watching this show? I don't know, it felt like so weird to include that stuff in the final edit. Like, their kind of personal lives and personal relationships I don't feel necessarily needed to be as involved. And I feel like that really overshadowed a lot of the stuff that happened in the show. Like this like relationship that kind of developed between Eileen and Charlie. On my rewatch as well, I was so surprised how early Danny left the competition. I really thought that Danny was in there a lot longer, and obviously I knew that Ali and Danny dated after, so I suppose maybe that's how I remembered them. Oh my god, at the end of that episode though, you know when they show you like a teaser of what's to come the next week, it was like Shanna being like, they called me a crack baby. There's like a clip of somebody fighting, Nikki's like, nobody's ready. I was like, oh my god, because I was gonna stop watching there, and then I was like, no, I've got to stay up till 3 AM and finish watching this. And then, yeah, so they had Vulnerability Week, and the song that they all had to sing as like the group challenge was My Life Would Suck Without You. I have to say, I totally agreed with Charlie when he was like, why? That song is like, it's like upbeat, I would class it as. And it's supposed to be like showing vulnerability to this upbeat pop song. It did feel very odd. Something that I don't know if they did in season 1 or they just didn't show it, but the whole splitting up of the lines was such like a frustrating thing with season 2, because they would basically, for the group challenge, they would all sit down and be like, well, I want to sing this line, well, I want to sing this line, and then it'd just be like, well, who gives up easier? Do you know what I mean? There was like this added animosity that I don't really think was needed. I don't know if the contestants picked the lines that they were going to sing in season 1 or if they were given to them, but it felt like, well, the people with the bigger personalities and the people who are, you know, maybe bossy or bolshier are going to end up up with better lines and then showcase themselves. And it just didn't feel like the most fair way to do things, but I don't know if it was just added in to make better TV maybe. I feel like, couldn't they have like pulled the lines out of a hat? Do you know what I mean? It feels like there could have been a better way to do it than just like, well, I want to do this line because I want to do a riff on it. And it's like, well, what are you supposed to say? Oh, okay. When they brought Corey Monteith as a guest mentor, my heart. The vulnerability episode was a weird episode. It was very odd. Like Lily telling everyone that she was a bully. I don't know, there was something about it that made me feel super uncomfortable. And I am going to touch briefly on Blake Jenner and Melissa Benoist at the moment, by the way, so I will leave a timestamp for when this section is over. I didn't want to talk about this, and I feel like if I don't, my comments are going to be flooded with it, so I am going to talk briefly on this. If you don't know, Blake Jenner was on the GLEE Project season 2. He wins the season and went on to the show, and on the show met Melissa Benoist. They ended up getting married. About a year or so ago, she said that she had been a victim of domestic abuse within the relationship. She did this, like, I think it was like a 15-minute video on Instagram talking about her experience, saying what a toxic relationship it was, how he physically and mentally abused her. And then like a year later, Blake Jenner posted some Instagram notes on your phone basically saying that she'd abused him just as much, and it was a real mess. And it felt very weird she'd just given birth to a baby, she's moved on with her life. He waited until she'd given birth to this new baby to then post this thing and basically say that she'd abused him as badly as he'd abused her, and it's very messy and not something that I feel like is my place to make real comments on. But what I will say is, the only reason I am really talking about it is because watching this season, Blake Jenner shows a lot of aggression, and in the show it's very much shown as he's such a great actor. Look how quickly he can switch to being so angry and physical and so aggressive, and he's such a great natural actor. And knowing what you know from the relationship with Melissa and things like throwing the phone at her face and then making her lie about it, and there's a lot of stuff online that's kind of refuting his claims, and as I say, I don't want to get into the specifics about it, but it was more just the fact that so many examples of him in the show being so aggressive and so physical that it made me feel sick at times to watch it. And the way that he would switch, and then everybody's like, but he's such a nice guy. You can see parts of somebody that made me feel uncomfortable to watch. And in this episode, he was saying that he saw somebody being beaten up and just walked past. I don't know, he didn't. I remember when I watched it the first time, and this is nothing to do with the stuff that has come out since, but I remember watching it the first time and I never liked him. There was always a vibe that I wasn't a fan. I didn't think he was the best in the show. I didn't like him generally, and I didn't think he was very interesting. And I never understood why he won the competition. But watching it back, as I say, all the parts, and there's so many examples of it, like again and again, they would cast him as the aggressive jock, or somebody who was in a fight, or somebody who was angry, or somebody who was really intense. It's hard when you know that somebody has gone on to then be an aggressor, to see it happening. I don't know, it made me feel uncomfortable. So I really disliked that about rewatching it. And you know, at the end of the day, we will never know the things that went on in somebody's relationship. We will never know the ins and outs of it, but I know where I stand on it, and it's awful what happened. Oh my god. Honestly, in this episode, there were moments where I was sat there with my hands like over my face because it was so uncomfortable to watch. Like, they all just took it too far in this episode. It was ridiculous. Like when Charlie took Mario's cane. Mario was visually impaired. Charlie took his own direction to take his cane. It's like, this isn't an acting scene. You're literally taking somebody's lifeline right now for him to be able to navigate the world. Like when Lily was like shouting and getting so angry and aggressive as well over Eileen, it was horrid. I hated this episode. And then everybody stayed. They like didn't get rid of anybody that week. I feel like Ryan Murphy is such an interesting person as well, because I feel like he's pretty cutthroat with people. He'll say quite cutting things with people and say things that aren't very nice. But then as soon as somebody's in the bottom 3 and he's like, Ryan, you can't let me go, man. I'm amazing. I'm gonna be better. He's like, well, you know, okay then, I'll give you another chance. And then after the most uncomfortable episode, we came up with Sexuality Week, which again is just odd. Just odd, isn't it? Naya was the guest mentor that week. All in all, a very difficult week again, because Tyler, who was on the show, is a trans person. A trans person's journey is so complex, and there's so many things that play into that, and so many things that you're going through, and comfort in your own body and with other people and in your sexuality, and so many things to deal with. And then that was the week that Tyler left the competition, and it felt really wrong to me, because Tyler struggled with Sexuality Week because of all of the things that he was going through with learning about his body and just becoming comfortable in himself. And it feels really wrong to me that, as they said, it's about inspiration and people who are interested. That's why we wanted you. And then to get rid of somebody on the week where they are sharing something that is so connected to them, that is something that they are navigating, it felt really wrong to me. Like, it made me feel uncomfortable to watch. I feel like it's such a confused thing in season 2, because it was very much like, you need to inspire us as who you are, but then as soon as they were put into something that wasn't who they are, and they were like, I'm struggling with this, it was like, oh, well, you need to go then. Like what happened with Nelly, but we'll get to Nelly. I did love Tyler's version of Keep Holding On though. It was gorgeous. Okay, so I watched season 2 on Daily Motion, but I couldn't find episodes 5 or 9, so I can't comment on those, which is annoying. So I missed Adaptability Week, but I was back with Fearlessness Week. I loved Eileen's accent so much. She says like back. Instead of saying like background, she's like back. All of you American people are gonna be like, you're so wrong. But I really liked her accent anyway, wherever she's from. And then finally they gave us Jane Lynch as a mentor. Finally, we were waiting. We were waiting for too long. I love Jane Lynch. Oh, isn't she just a dream? I really wanted to like Lily and Eileen more, but there was so much sniping between the two of them. They were always so bitchy to each other, and I really disliked it. I feel like maybe it was a thing with the producers telling them to have this kind of rivalry, but it made me not like them very much. And both of them on their own, I thought that they both had things about them that I really liked. Then they would come out with something really mean about the other girl, and I just didn't like it. Yeah, like as I was saying earlier about Nelly, I feel like every single opportunity they gave Nelly like really over the top, overtly sexual things to do, which felt really weird. Like as I was saying, they said this is all about who you are, doing the show as you are and staying true to yourself and being yourself so that we find you interesting. And then they kept giving her stuff to be like very overtly sexual, as I say, and it was clearly something that she wasn't comfortable with. She said multiple times, I'm not comfortable with this. And then multiple times they gave her the same thing again, and it just felt like she was set up to fail from the beginning. I felt so sorry for it, because I think that Nelly was so talented. The way that it was handled was so bad. I don't know, like rewatching this, as I was saying at the beginning, I'd like forgotten it, but rewatching it I was like, this show was problematic. Season 2 was an issue for me. I have to say, even though Charlie wasn't one of my favorites, I really enjoyed the time when he went into the auditorium and sang to Ryan. I thought that was really fun. So on the next episode, I loved that they did God, I Hope I Get It, you know, the chorus line number, and they really got to show who they are. It felt like it was finally getting into the competition where we were actually seeing people being appreciated for who they are. Hello, Tony Award winner Ali Stroker winning on Musicality Week. We see you in the future winning that Tony Award. Yes, Queen! A lot of the time I was very uncomfortable with the way that they talked about Abraham as well, with questions about his sexuality and things. There was a moment where it was like, well, it's just a simple question. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's not. For a lot of people, gender and sexuality is not straightforward. It's confusing and people aren't ready to come out. People aren't sure of how they feel about things. And when it was like pressured on the show for Abraham, it made me feel really uncomfortable and I really didn't like watching it back. Okay, can we talk about when they did Survivor in the group challenge and Ali Stroker was going down the steps on her wheelchair just like, I'm a survivor. Oh my god, what a queen. Like, how incredible. I was like, you, girl, you're a badass. She had no fear. I was like, wow, I was blown away. Yeah, this, like, I wrote it down again about Eileen and Lily. Like, it was like this over-the-top confidence that they both showed that was kind of covering an insecurity. And, you know, at the end of the day, they're teenagers, so I'm sure as well that they were manipulated by producers to say things that made the TV better. But it was like not the nicest to watch. I feel like season 1 I was really rooting for everybody, but in season 2 I really wasn't, other than Ali. There was definitely a level of competitiveness in this season that I didn't feel was as over the top in the last one. Like, there was a moment when Michael was talking about Blake and he was like, yeah, he's my best friend on the show, but I'm watching him thinking like, yeah, what are you gonna do? And then I'm gonna do it better. I feel like in the first season you watched them and you felt like they were like a family, and even though they were in a competition, I feel like everybody pretty much supported each other. There was a little bit of animosity maybe between like Mateus and Alex at times, but generally there was a real sense of like friendship there, and I just didn't feel that with season 2. I also think it's so odd, and I thought this in the first one, when they introduce themselves before they perform each week, it's like, yeah, I've been in the bottom 3 for the last 6 weeks in a row, but hi Ryan, my name's Amy Lovatt and I'm gonna be singing Run Joey Run. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why do they have to introduce themselves every time? I find it so weird. So I couldn't find the pairability episode, which was episode 9, but I was so sad they got rid of Shanna. I think she was so talented. Like, her vocals were ridiculous. I feel like she didn't get a lot of airtime on the show, so we didn't really get to see a huge amount from her, but I really liked her. And I was sad that she went, but as I say, I didn't even see why she went because I couldn't find the episode on Dailymotion, which is very sad. And then next, it was like the acting week, and Robert Ulrich said, acting is easily the most important thing about being on the show of Glee. Then why do they never act out any scenes, and why do they only ever sing songs? I'm sorry, what? Give us an acting exercise. I did like this week because they kind of did like mini scenes for a trailer of a movie. So we did actually get to see them doing little bits of acting. So I really enjoyed that part of it. I loved that we had Diana Agron as well because I do love her. Listen, Quinn was never my favorite character, but I love Diana Agron. Poor Michael, bless him. I have to say, he was so unmemorable to me. Even rewatching the whole thing, I was like, why don't I remember any of you being on this show? I mean, bless him, he seemed like a very nice person. He seemed to always be like, this is out of my comfort zone. Oh, sorry, singing's out of my comfort zone. Acting is out of my comfort zone. It's like, hun, what's in your comfort zone? Are we gonna have a problem? Oh my god. So it was down to the final few and they were like, right, who am I most excited about? And then Ian Brennan was like, I'm most excited about Blake, Lily, and Michael. No offense to them, but why? Blake was boring. Michael was boring. I personally think Eileen had such an interesting story. I think that they probably would have butchered covering a Muslim storyline in Glee, let's be honest. But like, when you've got the option of Eileen and Ali, people with actual interesting stories and lives, compared to the other 3, I don't know, it just seemed weird to me that you would be more interested in them. And then the next moment they're saying, so first and foremost, you know, we have to pick a star. I thought this wasn't a talent competition. I thought this was an inspiration competition. So is it about the person who's the most talented? Because if that's the case, then why didn't Lindsay Pearce and Alex Newell win season 1? Listen, I stand by what I said. For the final week, GLEALity week, hello! It was down to Eileen, Blake, and Ali. And then for GLEALity week, they brought in everybody else who'd been on the show for them to all sing together. And they were like, oh my god, I'm so surprised you're here. It's like, did you not watch season 1? In the finale, everybody came back. It's what they do on TV shows. They bring everybody back. Oh my god, so I never watch anything without like researching everybody and seeing what they're up to in their real life and following them all on Instagram and generally just like digitally stalking them. And oh my god, Shanna is now like a massive country music star called Harper Here. I love it! I did think about maybe doing a video of like Glee project people and where they are now. So if you are interested in that, let me know because I found out what everybody's doing. I got the tea, sis. I personally felt like, as I say, regardless of everything that happened with Blake, he was never my choice to win. And I also felt like Eileen and Ali overall were better performers. I just didn't really get Blake winning. It always felt weird to me. Why? Why? Something that bothered me as well was when they talked about Eileen, they kept being like, you know, we're worried about can you take the pressure about playing a Muslim character on TV and the backlash that you might get from being who you are within your religion. Can you handle that? And it's like, you do realize that she's on a TV show right now, right? Like, she's already being who she is and who she would basically be on the show right now in a TV show. So she's already handling it. And it's like the fact that that was gonna go against her apparently. It's like also if she was in Glee, she would presumably have more care and more support than just being on this TV show, showing who she is, and then nothing after it. Does that make sense? I also loved when they were discussing who to pick, and Diana Agron said that Ali gives things playing a disabled character that Kevin can't give, Kevin who played Artie. And I really appreciated that she said that, and it made me think a lot about when she then had her car crash episode and she was in a wheelchair, and I wonder how she felt about that, because she clearly thought that Ali should have been in the show and that a real wheelchair user should play a wheelchair user, and I really wonder what she felt about that storyline and everything. But that's just a side note. But in the end, Blake won. Ali did get 1 episode. Eileen didn't get anything, which I felt was really unfair, because as I say, I do think she was a great performer. I think she had a lovely voice. Definitely deserved a lot more from the show. But that's just some of my thoughts from the Glee Project Season 2. Let me know who you wanted to win. Let me know if you agree with any of my thoughts or anything. And I hope that you're all well, looking after yourselves, and I will see you soon. Love you lots. Bye.